welcome back to the channel. I'm Kevin O'Donnell, and this is Behind the Door. Although today, we've gone beyond the door. We're down in Manitowoc County at a place called Devil's River. And this is Devil's River Falls, which is actually on private property. But isn't this beautiful? How would you like to have this in your backyard? Oh, stunning. Stunning. At any rate, I got permission from the owner to come out here today. And I'd like to welcome you back. And I apologize for being gone for nearly 5 months. 5 months since I've made a video. And we're going to talk about that today as to the reasons why that occurred. Some of it good news, really good news, and some of it not so good news. And so just kind of a culmination of things that just this confluence of multiple things that came together all at one time, and it really prohibited me from spending the time that I need to go out and shoot and the week or so that it takes to actually edit one of these videos. So I simply just didn't have the time. But we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about taking shots of this beautiful cascading waterfall over the limestone here of the Niagara Escarpment. Yes, it extends down into Manitowoc County. It's not just Door County. I'm going to try to get set up here and maybe make a composition, and then I'll let you know what's been going on. So bear with me a moment. So let me first say I apologize for being absent for so long. And I know many of you have contacted me either through the YouTube channel or contacted me through email, messenger, and have even written to Officer Square Nuts, who those of you who are familiar with my channel have seen on a number of videos. Officer Andrew Crabb of the Sturgeon Bay Police Department, very dear friend. And I appreciate your concern. Everybody asking if my health is okay, if everything's all right, what's going on with you. So let me just start by saying that back in January, February timeframe, I underwent treatment for skin cancer, basically for basal cell carcinoma. And it's something that I go through about every year. I had a number of spots that were biopsied and proved to be a little bit more serious than just, pre-basal cell or basal cell carcinoma. Then about in April, May, I don't know, time's fuzzy now. I went back in and they discovered squamous cell carcinoma, for which I had to have surgery for on my arms and on the back of my neck. So I was kind of out of commission. I looked a mess because I was under treatment with this ointment, and I just looked horrible. And I didn't really feel like wanting to make and subject you to having to look at me like that. So I was not comfortable with that at all. You can probably tell on the last video I did about Fruits of Sturgeon Bay in the post office that my skin was pretty ruddy and pretty red. Anyway, so that's the first issue. Then the second issue is actually good news. I've been working on putting together a book for 5 years. And actually that's the reason why this YouTube channel started, actually, to kind of promote the book, Behind the Door. So the title of the book is called Behind the Door, Exploring the Heart and Soul of America's Most Endearing Peninsula. That's the subtitle as it stands now. It contains not only photographs, but 27 essays. Those of you who don't know, I'm also a writer and an author. I've written a couple of books in the past. I've done a lot of technical writing in my former life as an engineer. I wrote a lot of regulatory documents, really, really boring stuff. So this is creative writing. And the essays are about the things behind the door, and there are photographs to support those essays or those stories. I turned everything over to the publisher about a week and a half ago, publisher is in Sister Bay, up in the northern part of the door. And I didn't really have much of an opportunity to get out and photograph. Of course, I looked a mess anyway, and recovering from my surgeries and all of that. Then right at about the time all of that was completed, Colleen was diagnosed with breast cancer. So just about 2 weeks ago now. And of course that threw a wrench into everything, consumed all of our time. She's okay. She's going to be okay. The doctor did say that the type of breast cancer that she has plays nice. There are a lot of cancers that don't play nice. People don't die from what she has. She has what they call ductal carcinoma in situ. So it is a cancer that is in the mammary duct, and in situ means it's contained. So it hasn't spread to any other tissue in her body, which is great. She's in great health. She's in pretty good spirits, but she is going to have to undergo surgery and radiation treatment. No chemo. This is a cancer that doesn't respond to chemo. So we are still undergoing testing for her. She's having some genetics oncology testing done. We have to wait for the results of that test to determine course of treatment. So life has been a little full these past few months, and that has been the reason for my absence. I fully intended to get back in early summer, but the writing portion of the book just took so much time. I was astounded how much time it took, but I wanted the stories to be just right. So that's it in a nutshell for now. Probably more information than you needed. Let's take a look at taking some photos here, and I'll get back to you. We'll talk more about this place and more about the book. I'm just starting out with something simple here. I put on a 70 to 200 millimeter lens and kind of zoomed in to the most active portion of the falls at the moment, instead of getting this kind of grand vista shot. And you can see here in the upper right hand corner the remnants of a stone wall that was built went across where the stream is here to divert this river over to the mill that we saw on the way in. That was a grist mill built in 1847. And then this wall broke during a flood in mid-1930s, and they never repaired it, and the mill went under. Yeah, so it's been like this ever since. So here's what I'm shooting. I wanted to get a little bit of movement in the water, but kind of smooth it out. So I'm shooting at 0.3 of a second. But in order to do that, I had to boost my aperture up to 32, which isn't going to produce a real clean, crisp image. The optimal aperture for this lens is f8. And you can see I'm shooting about 1.5 stops below nominal exposure at ISO 100. But that's okay. I checked my histogram, and you can see on the histogram, well, maybe it's a little bit dark now. The clouds have moved in. So I'm going to raise my ISO up to maybe 160. And just to get those dark shadows off that left edge of the histogram there. So, but this isn't the best way to take this photo, but I'm just going to do this for now. Here we go. Focus on the center of the photo. Yeah, see, that's too milky now. That's too much smoothness for my taste. So I'm going to speed up the shutter speed here to 1/10 of a second. See how much darker they've got now. But I like the way the water looks here now. Still has some definition. It isn't like milk. All right, I think I'm going to put on a polarizing filter to bring out some color in those fall leaves. Let's do that. So this is a circular polarizing filter, and I'm just going to screw that onto the front of the frame here. And be very careful I don't drop it. The threads are so fine on these. When I use this in the cold, it's almost impossible to get off once I screw it on, because the metal and the plastic here, or resin, constrict. So now that this is screwed on, I can actually turn the outer portion of this filter, and I'll show you what that does here. So the polarization is in varying degrees depending on how far you turn it. So this is without any polarization, or very little polarization. And if I turn it clockwise here, you can see it darkening down. Those greens are greening up. It takes the sheen off the water and the sheen off of these rocks in the foreground. And it saturates the color. So we're going to go with that. Shooting at 1/10 of a second. The other thing that a circular polarizer does is it reduces your aperture by one full stop. I'm shooting at 160, 1/10 of a second, aperture of f8, and let's see what we get here. Not bad. I'm going to take a few photos here, focusing in on different areas in case I need to focus stack. It's a nice enough composition, I guess, but we can find better. I'm glad it clouded over too. It was sunny blue skies here, which would just make too much of a high dynamic range here for shadows and light. So actually the best time to photograph waterfalls is when it's overcast. Usually you're looking for light. In this case, we're looking for very, very subtle differences in light. You don't want that high contrast of light and shadow. All right, let's move on, shall we? I think I'll try over on the other side of the creek here. Got to be really careful on this wet stuff. It's slicker than cat snot, so it is. So I've been chomping at the bit to get out here and photograph. It's such a lovely, serene, and relatively unknown place. Not too many waterfalls in this part of the state. Very few, in fact. But this is probably the grandest. I've just really been wanting to get out here. It's so peaceful and serene. And of course, it is a Wednesday, and it's long after Labor Day, so kids are back in school. Families aren't out vacationing much. You come here on the weekend, it can get a little crowded, but during the week, I have this whole place to myself. So let me show you what I found here, and I absolutely love this composition because of the water over here on the right. You can see right through that water coming through here, and the color of those rocks by that birch tree, just that beautiful ochre yellow color coming out and complementing the color of these leaves here that are on the rocks, just makes for a really nice composition. So I'm shooting this 1.5 stops underexposed because if I try to shoot at optimal exposure, my highlights on the surface of these waves comes out pure white, and I get an alert that there's no pixel data there. It's completely blown out. So I want to be able to retain that data so I can work with the texture of that water, the color of the water, the luminance of the water, without having any pixel data there. That you can't do that. There's nothing there to work with. So shooting at 1/4 of a second, f11, ISO 100, and about 1 1/4 stops underexposed. The light keeps changing now. Now the sun is out. There's plenty of cloud cover. I'll just wait the best time with the best light. I've got all day. I thought maybe while I had some lunch, I can tell you a little bit about the book. As I'd mentioned, I've been working on it for about 5 years, ever since we first moved up to Door County, actually. And it was supposed to be out 2 years ago, but the pandemic kind of put the kibosh on that, set back everything. So, what's it about? There's a lot of photography books on Door County over the years. A lot. Some better than others. I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to take just photos of the most visited kind of iconic sites and the iconic shots that you've seen a million times on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever. My love for history is kind of what drove it. I wanted to write about what's behind the door. How did this place, this Door County place, come to be such a unique place to live and to vacation? And it's a combination of many things that are unique to it, all on their own. But when you put all of these things together, it really makes for a compelling story. So the book is in 8 chapters, and it talks about the traditions, the history, the people, things that go on in everyday lives. It's not anything to do with any of the tourist spots. You won't find in the book any pictures of Cave Point, for instance, or of the Windy Road, or goats on roofs, or any of that. It's about the things that the tourists miss, that visitors don't typically see. It's about the family farms and the traditions of commercial fishing and the 6 generations of farmers and lumbermen and fishermen and the daily lives of these people in the county. Not just the county, actually, not just Door County, but I included the entire peninsula, which includes a fairly large swath of Kewaunee County to the south and a little corner of Brown County, which is where Green Bay is. And I wanted to cover it from end to end, talking about the work we embrace, the traditions that we value, the history that we cherish, the stories that we tell, the lives that we live. These are some of the names of the chapters. So it's going to be about 140-ish pages, I think, by the time it's all laid out. We're still in that process. And about as many photographs, about 140 photographs. And the book will be rather large. It's 11.5 wide by 9 3/4 inches tall. And yeah, so that's my story about the book. Oh, when is it coming out? Good question. We're trying by the end of this year. Don't know if we'll make it. If not, certainly by next spring. I'll certainly let you know. All right, time to enjoy my sandwich. What did I make? I made turkey with cucumber, mayonnaise, pepper, and onion on a Hawaiian king roll. All right, and then after lunch, I got a few more compositions in mind, much closer to the top of the falls here. So. Nice with the leaves there now too. Yeah. So this is what I'm looking at here. So the object here would be to get nice and low, about like this, and you see how that water is rolling off that ledge of that rock there. With my extra wide angle lens, I want to make sure I get these leaves in the foreground. So this is going to have to be a focus stack, because those leaves are literally 16, 18 inches from the front of the lens. All right, get it set up. That's very nice. I like this a lot. Sky's pretty bright. Those trees back there are pretty bright, but that was at 1/8 of a second. Let's try it at 1/10 of a second. That's pretty nice. Getting a little flowing out the highlights in the sky back there. I will point my camera down. Get these rocks in the foreground. Oh, that's much better. Much better. Get all those beautiful leaves there on these rocks. Okay. I am going to shoot, I think, here at f8, ISO 125, 1/10 of a second, and I'm going to focus stack to make sure that I get all of these leaves in the foreground in focus. And then I will work my way back in the composition to the water and to the background. All right, if I can stand up again. My trusty stadium cushion. Always comes in handy. Never leave home without it. So let me explain to you what I got going on here for composition. I have been working this composition now for the better part of 20 minutes, maybe longer. I had mentioned that I want to get this birch tree arching over the falls. That looks nice. But I also want to capture the panoramic. That's why I have my camera in the vertical orientation, to grab more sky and water. And I start about here and work my way over to about here. I'll have enough of what I need, left to right. I could always crop in on that. But my problem becomes this tree, this birch tree. I can't get all of those branches in, which is fine because the sky is so bright right now and the shadows are so deep here. This is why I wanted it to be, overcast, so I don't have to deal with this issue of a broad spectrum of dynamic light here. So I'm trying to split the difference. Got my settings at 1/4 of a second, 9.5 aperture, and ISO 125. And in doing that, I don't clip either the shadows or the highlights. I come pretty close. I had to make sure I level, so starting here, going to here, it remains level. Hope it turns out. Shadows are pretty deep right now, and I'm about to run out of battery. Good thing when I went up to the top of the hill here to get my stadium cushion, I brought some batteries. Yeah, I don't know. Find out. Alright, listen everybody, I better get moving on home. I want to get home by the time Colleen gets home from work, and about an hour drive home. Again, I really want to thank you all for your concern, your compassion, and your understanding. So until next time, I guess, I don't know when that'll be. But I can tell you this, I don't think it's going to be 5 months. We'll see you down the road, everyone. Thanks for watching.